Taeyang wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled through the maintenance tunnel beneath the diplomatic quarters. The air was hot and thick, and his toolkit kept sliding off his shoulder. He had been working on Deep Space Station Meridian 7 for 3 years now, fixing pipes and wiring and all the things that broke when humans tried to live in the cold darkness of space. It was honest work, but it was lonely work. Today was different, though. Today the aliens had arrived, the Velthara. That was what they called themselves. Taeyang had seen them on the news feeds, tall figures stepping off their massive ship. They looked almost human from a distance, but up close everything changed. They were nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer with strange colors. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, and their faces were beautiful in a way that made Taeyang's chest feel tight. But it was the markings that caught everyone's attention. Lines of light ran across their skin like living tattoos, glowing softly in blues and greens and purples. The scientists said the colors changed with their emotions, like a mood ring worn on the soul itself. Taeyang finished his work and climbed out of the tunnel into the lower corridor. He was covered in dust and grease, looking like he had fought a losing battle with a machine. He probably had. As he walked toward the cleaning station, he passed a large window that looked out onto the main reception hall. He stopped. She was there. One of the Velthara stood apart from the others near the edge of the gathering, while the other aliens spoke with human diplomats and smiled their careful diplomatic smiles. This one simply watched. Her markings glowed a soft blue color, peaceful and calm. She wore what looked like armor, but it was elegant, not brutal. It fit her like a second skin, all flowing lines and curves. Her hair was dark, almost black, and it fell past her shoulders in a way that made Taeyang think of Earth's oceans at night. He stood there longer than he should have, watching her watch the humans. There was something in the way she held herself. Not proud exactly, though she stood straight and tall. Not cold, though she kept her distance. It was more like she was curious about everything, taking it all in, trying to understand. A voice crackled in Taeyang's earpiece. "Taeyang, you there? We need you in Section 7. The environmental controls are acting up again." He tore his eyes away from the window. "On my way," he said, but he glanced back one more time. The Velthara woman had turned slightly, and for just a moment he could have sworn she was looking directly at him through the window. Then someone called to her and she turned away. Taeyang shook his head. He was being stupid. She probably could not even see him through the glare of the glass, and even if she could, why would an alien warrior care about a human engineer covered in grease? He headed to Section 7, pushing the moment out of his mind, or trying to. 3 days later, Taeyang received an assignment that made his hands shake when he read it. He was supposed to do maintenance work in the guest quarters, the Velthara quarters. They needed someone to check the water systems and air filtration. Someone who could work quietly and not disturb the guests. Taeyang had never been in the diplomatic quarters before. They were on the upper levels of the station, where everything was cleaner and newer and meant to impress important visitors. He felt out of place the moment he stepped off the elevator. The carpets were soft under his boots. The walls were decorated with art from Earth and from the colonies. It smelled like flowers, which was strange for a space station. A human security officer checked his credentials and led him to the Velthara section. "Be respectful," the officer said. "Do not touch anything you do not need to touch. Do not ask questions. Just do your job and leave." Taeyang nodded. His mouth felt dry. The quarters were empty when he entered, or so he thought. He got to work quickly, checking the pipes and filters, running his scanners over the systems. Everything seemed fine, which was good. He could finish fast and get out. Then he saw the display. It was on the wall, a holographic projection of some kind. Taeyang had not touched it, but as he walked past it, his tool belt brushed against a sensor. The display activated. Suddenly, the room was filled with images and sounds. Velthara symbols flowed across the air like water. A low humming filled the space, almost like music, but deeper, felt in the bones rather than heard. Taeyang froze. He had no idea what he had triggered or how to turn it off. He reached for the sensor again, hoping that would deactivate it, but his hand went right through the hologram. The humming grew louder. "Do not move," a voice said behind him. Taeyang's heart jumped into his throat. He turned slowly. She stood in the doorway. The woman from the reception hall. Up close, she was even more striking. Her markings were glowing a bright orange now, pulsing slightly. Her large eyes were fixed on him, and he could not tell if she was angry or surprised or something else entirely. "I am sorry," Taeyang said quickly. I did not mean to activate it. I was just checking the water systems and my belt hit something and I do not know how to turn it off. The Velthera woman tilted her head slightly, studying him. Then her markings slowly shifted from orange to a softer yellow. She walked past him to the wall and touched a symbol he had not noticed. The display shut down. The humming stopped. The room was quiet again. You are the engineer, she said. Her voice was lower than he expected and her words had a slight accent like she was tasting each one before speaking it. Yes. Taeyang. My name is Taeyang. Kira, she said. She touched her chest lightly. I am called Kira. They stood there in the quiet room looking at each other. Taeyang noticed that her markings were now a gentle blue again. Calm. Curious. What was that? Taeyang asked, then immediately regretted it. The security officer had said not to ask questions, but Kira did not seem offended. A meditation, she said. We use them before combat. To center the mind. To remember purpose, she paused. It is private. I am really sorry, Taeyang said again. Kira studied him for a long moment. Then something strange happened. The corners of her mouth turned up slightly. It might have been a smile. You are afraid, she said. Your heart beats very fast. I can hear it. Taeyang felt his face grow hot. I did not mean to intrude. I know, Kira said. She moved to a chair and sat down, her movements graceful despite her size. You may finish your work. I will not disturb you. Taeyang nodded and turned back to his task, but his hands were shaking now. He could feel her watching him as he worked. It should have made him more nervous, but strangely it did not. There was something about her presence that felt safe, solid, like standing next to a strong wall during a storm. Why do you work alone? Kira asked after a few minutes. Taeyang glanced at her. Most maintenance is done alone. It is easier that way, is it? Kira asked. Easier to be alone? Taeyang did not know how to answer that. He focused on his scanner, watching the readings flow across the screen. Sometimes, he finally said. Velthera do not like to be alone, Kira said quietly. We are taught that connection is strength. That isolation is death, she paused. But I think I understand the appeal. Sometimes the expectations of others are heavy. Taeyang looked at her again. She was staring at the wall where the meditation display had been, her markings flickering between blue and purple. In that moment, she did not look like a warrior or a diplomat. She looked tired. She looked lonely, just like him. Your work here, Taeyang said carefully. The diplomatic mission. Is it difficult? Kira's laugh was short and quiet. You ask questions even when told not to. Sorry. Do not be, Kira said. She looked at him directly and Taeyang felt pinned by those large, strange, beautiful eyes. Yes, it is difficult. We come to learn about humans. To see if our peoples can be friends, but friendship requires understanding and understanding requires truth. Diplomacy is often the opposite of truth. Taeyang nodded slowly. He understood that more than she might think. He finished his work and packed up his tools. As he headed for the door, Kira spoke again. Taeyang, he turned. Thank you, she said. For being honest. Even in small ways, Taeyang smiled despite himself. Thank you for not killing me when I triggered your meditation. This time, Kira's smile was real, showing teeth that were slightly sharper than human teeth. The day is not over yet. Taeyang laughed, surprised by his own comfort. He left the quarters feeling lighter than he had in months. He did not understand why, but something had shifted. Something had begun. He did not know that everything was about to change. But it does not matter. She is leaving soon. The diplomatic missio, the departure ceremony, was scheduled for the following evening. Taeyang knew because the entire station was preparing for it. The Velthara delegation would leave in their massive ship, and life on Meridian 7 would return to normal. The diplomats would write their reports. The scientists would study their data. Everyone would go back to their regular routines. Everyone except Taeyang. He did not think he would ever be normal again. He tried to work, but his hands felt clumsy and his mind kept wandering. His best friend Minho noticed immediately. Minho worked in engineering too, and they had been friends since Taeyang first arrived on the station. Minho was good at reading people, and he was especially good at reading Taeyang. You look terrible, Minho said, sitting down next to Taeyang in the break room. Thank you, Taeyang said flatly. I am serious. You look like you have not slept in days. What is going on? Taeyang stared at his cold coffee. The Velthara are leaving tomorrow. I know. Everyone knows. Minho paused. This is about that warrior. Woman, is it not? Kira? How does everyone know about that? Because you are terrible at hiding things, my friend. And because the way you look at her is the way people look at things they cannot have. Minho leaned forward. Do you love her? The word felt too small for what Taeyang felt. Love was what he had felt for girlfriends in the past, brief flames that burned out quickly. This was different. This was bigger. This felt like gravity, like the force that held planets in orbit around stars. It felt necessary. Yes, Taeyang said simply. Have you told her? No. Why not? Taeyang laughed, but there was no humor in it. Because what would be the point? Even if she feels the same way, we cannot be together. She lives on a planet hundreds of light years away. She has duties to her people. I have my life here. And we are different species, Minho. How could we ever make that work? Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised Taeyang. Do you remember why you came to this station? To work. To start over. No, I mean the real reason. You told me once, late at night after too many drinks. You said you came here because you were tired of being afraid. You said you spent your whole life playing it safe, never taking risks, and look where it got you. Alone. You said you wanted to be brave. Taeyang remembered that conversation. It felt like a lifetime ago. This is your chance, Minho said. To be brave. Maybe nothing comes of it. Maybe she does not feel the same way, or maybe the universe makes it impossible. But at least you will know. At least you will have tried. Is it not better to take the risk and fail than to spend the rest? Of your life wondering what might have been? When did you become so wise? Taeyang asked. I was always wise. You just never listened. Taeyang smiled despite himself. Minho was right. He knew Minho was right. But knowing something and having the courage to do something were very different things. The next day passed too quickly. Taeyang watched the clock, watched the hours slip away. He told himself a dozen times that he would go to Kira, that he would tell her how he felt. But every time he started to move, fear held him back. What if telling her made things worse? What if it made her departure harder? What if he was wrong about everything and she did not feel the same way at all? The departure ceremony began at sunset station time. It was held in the main observation deck, a huge room with windows that looked out into space. Hundreds of people attended, both humans and Velthara, all dressed formally. There were speeches about friendship between worlds, about the success of the diplomatic mission, about hope for the future. Taeyang stood at the back of the room, wearing his best clothes, which were still just plain work clothes cleaned up a bit. He did not belong here with the diplomats and important people, but he had to see her one more time. Kira stood at the front with the other Velthara delegates. She wore ceremonial armor that gleamed in the light, all gold and silver. Her markings glowed a formal white, the color of duty and honor. She looked beautiful and distant, and completely out of reach. The speeches went on and on. Taeyang barely heard them. He just watched Kira memorizing every detail. The way she stood so straight and proud. The way her hair caught the light. The way her markings flickered slightly when the Velthara commander said something that made her tense. Finally, the speeches ended. There was music, some kind of Velthara instrumental piece that sounded like wind chimes and thunder mixed together. People began to mingle, humans and Velthara talking in small groups. Taeyang stayed where he was, pressed against the back wall. Then Kira moved. She stepped away from the other delegates and walked to the observation windows. She stood alone, looking out at the stars, at the Velthara ship waiting in the distance. The glow from her markings reflected in the glass. Taeyang found himself walking forward without deciding to. His feet carried him across the room, past the groups of talking people until he stood a few feet behind Kira. She was so close, just a few steps away. This was his last chance. But the words would not come. His throat felt tight. His heart was beating so hard he thought everyone in the room must be able to hear it. Kira's reflection in the window was beautiful and sad. Her markings had shifted to that dark purple color he had seen before, the color of loneliness. Taeyang opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He tried again. Still nothing. Then, without thinking, without planning, he whispered in Korean. His first language. The language of his childhood and his heart. He whispered so quietly that he did not think anyone could possibly hear. The words were just for him, just to say them out loud once, to make them real. I wish I could marry her. The moment the words left his mouth, Taeyang felt a mix of relief and despair. Relief because he had finally said it, even if no one heard. Despair because saying it out loud made it real, made the impossibility of it sharp and painful. Then something happened that stopped his heart. Kira's markings flared bright blue, then gold, then a brilliant red. The change was so sudden and so bright that people nearby stopped talking and looked at her. The markings were pulsing now, colors shifting rapidly in a way Taeyang had never seen before. Slowly, very slowly, Kira turned around. Her large alien eyes locked onto his. Her face showed surprise and something else, something that made her markings burn even brighter. She took a step toward him, then another. The room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now, though Taeyang barely noticed. Kira stopped right in front of him. She was so close he could feel the heat radiating from her skin, could see her markings glowing with colors he had no names for. Her eyes searched his face, looking for something. Then she spoke. Not in the common language they usually used. Not in Velthara. She spoke in Korean, the words careful and precisely pronounced, with an accent that made them somehow more beautiful. My reply is yes. The observation deck was completely silent. Taeyang stared at her, his mind struggling to understand what had just happened. She had heard him. Despite the crowd, despite the distance, despite the noise, she had heard his whispered words. And she had understood them. You speak Korean? He asked stupidly. I have been learning, Kira said, still in Korean. For weeks now. Every night I study. I wanted to understand your language. I wanted to understand you. She paused, and her markings softened to a warm gold. I wanted to be able to say yes in your language, if you ever asked. But I did not ask, Taeyang said. I just wished. In Velthara culture, a wish spoken aloud is the same as a question asked, and a question about bonding must be answered immediately and honestly, or it is an insult to both people. Kira's hand reached out and touched his face gently. I am answering honestly, Taeyang. Yes. I want to bond with you. I want to be with you, yes. Someone in the crowd gasped. Taeyang heard rapid footsteps, then voices speaking urgently in Velthara. The commander was pushing through the crowd, his face dark with anger. Human security personnel were moving too, looking confused and worried, but Taeyang could not look away from Kira. Her hand was warm on his face. Her markings were glowing with colors that he now understood meant joy, hope, determination, love. Do you understand what you have done? The Velthara commander demanded, speaking in the common language so everyone could understand. Do you understand what you have started? Kira turned to face her commander, but she kept one hand on Taeyang's arm. Yes, Commander, I understand completely. This is unacceptable. The diplomatic mission is ruined. The Alliance will survive, Kira interrupted. But I will not survive without him. I have made my choice. It is done. The commander's markings flashed angry red. You know the law. If a bonding declaration is made publicly and accepted publicly, it cannot be undone. But a human? A human, Kira? Yes, Kira said firmly. A human. Taeyang finally found his voice. What is happening? I do not understand. Kira looked back at him, and despite the chaos around them, she smiled. In my culture, when someone speaks a desire for bonding and another person accepts, it is binding, sacred. We have just declared our intention to bond in front of witnesses from both our peoples. It is the most serious commitment a Velthara can make. But I did not know, Taeyang said. I did not mean to. Did you mean what you said? Kira asked. Do you wish to be with me? Over the next 2 weeks, Taeyang found himself assigned to the diplomatic quarters more and more often. It seemed like something was always breaking or needing adjustment. The environmental controls, the communication systems, the lighting panels. He began to suspect that some of these problems were not actually problems at all, but he never said anything. He did not mind the extra work. He saw Kira often. Sometimes she would be in her quarters when he arrived. Other times she would return while he was working. They always talked, brief conversations at first, then longer ones. She asked him about Earth, about human culture, about things that seemed small but clearly mattered to her. He asked her about the Velthara, careful not to push too far, but she seemed willing to share. One afternoon, Taeyang's sister Hyejin came to visit him during his lunch break. She worked in the xenolinguistics department, studying alien languages and helping with translation. She sat across from him in the small cafeteria, eating noodles and giving him a look he recognized. It was her I know something look, so, she said. I hear you have been spending a lot of time with the Velthara. Taeyang kept his eyes on his food. I have been assigned to their quarters. There have been a lot of maintenance issues. Interesting, Hyejin said, because according to the system logs, most of those issues resolve themselves before you even arrive. Almost like they were never real problems. Taeyang felt his face grow warm. Maybe the systems are fixing themselves automatically. Maybe, Hyejin said, but she was smiling. Or maybe someone is creating work orders so that a certain engineer has a reason to be in a certain area of the station. That would be against regulations, Taeyang said. Yes, it would. Hyejin ate another bite of noodles. The Velthara woman, Kira, she is the one requesting the maintenance work. Taeyang looked up sharply. How do you know that? I work with the diplomatic team. I see the requests. She always asks for you specifically. Hyejin leaned forward. What is going on, Taeyang? He did not know how to answer. What was going on? He talked to an alien woman while he fixed things that were not broken. That was all. Except it was not all. When he was in those quarters, when Kira was there, he felt something he had not felt in years. He felt seen. He felt like he mattered. We just talk, Taeyang said finally. She wants to understand humans better. Does she? Hyejin asked. Her tone was gentle, not mocking. Taeyang, do you know anything about Velthara culture? About how they form relationships? Not really. Hyejin pulled out her tablet and brought up a file. I have been studying them. It is my job. The Velthara are very different from us in many ways, but in some ways they are similar. They bond with partners like humans do. But for them it is permanent. Once they choose someone, that is it. Forever. Taeyang felt something twist in his chest. Why are you telling me this? Because their birth rates are falling. Their population is dying. Do you know why? Hyejin did not wait for an answer. Because they have so many rules about bonding. It has to be someone from the right family, someone with the right skills, someone approved by their elders. The rules are so strict that most Velthara never find anyone at all. They live alone and die alone. That is terrible, Taeyang said quietly. It is, Hyejin agreed, but some of them are looking for a different way. Some of them think that maybe the old rules are killing their people. They think maybe they need to open up to new possibilities. She looked at her brother carefully. I think Kira might be one of those people. Taeyang did not know what to say to that. The idea was too big, too strange. Him and Kira? A human and a Velthara? That was impossible, ridiculous, was not it? That evening, Taeyang received another work order. Water filtration in the Velthara quarters again. When he arrived, Kira was sitting by the window looking out at the stars. Her markings were a dark purple, almost sad. Hello, Taeyang, she said without turning around. Hello, Kira. He set down his toolkit. I am here to check the water system. There is nothing wrong with the water system, Kira said. Taeyang froze. They had never acknowledged this before, never spoken it out loud. Oh, he said. Kira turned to face him. I am sorry. I should not have lied. But I wanted to see you. And I did not know how else to make it happen. The diplomatic schedule is very controlled. I am not supposed to have personal time with station personnel. Why did you want to see me? Taeyang asked, even though part of him was afraid of the answer. Kira stood and walked closer to him. She was so much taller that he had to look up to meet her eyes. "Because you are the only person here who talks to me like I am a person, not a diplomat or a warrior or a symbol. You are honest. You ask real questions. You listen to real answers. I like talking to you too," Taeyang admitted. "I need to ask you something," Kira said. "And I need you to be honest the way you always are." "Okay. What does it mean to be lonely?" Kira asked. "The word translates in my language, but I do not think I understand it. Not the way humans understand it." Taeyang thought about it. "How do you explain loneliness?" "It means being surrounded by people but still feeling alone. It means wanting connection but not having it. It means going to bed every night and waking up every morning by yourself and wondering if it will always be that way." Kira's markings shifted to a deep blue, almost black. "Then I understand," she said quietly. "I am lonely too." They stood there in silence for a moment. Then Taeyang did something brave, or maybe stupid. He reached out and touched her hand. Her skin was warm, warmer than human skin, and he could feel a slight vibration like a current running just beneath the surface. Kira looked down at their hands, then back up at his face. "This is not allowed," she said. "I know. If anyone sees, there will be trouble." "I know, but I do not want you to stop," Kira said, so he did not. Over the following days, they continued to meet. Taeyang stopped pretending to do maintenance work. Instead, he would come to Kira's quarters during her free time and they would talk. He told her about growing up on Earth, about his parents who had died in a transport accident, about his sister who was his only family. He told her about coming to the station to escape the memories, about losing himself in work so he would not have to think about how empty his life felt. Kira told him about Velthura, about a world of honor and duty and ancient traditions, about being trained as a warrior from childhood, learning to fight and strategize and lead, about being good at it, maybe too good, so that everyone saw her as a weapon instead of a woman. She told him about watching her friends bond with partners while she remained alone, because no one could see past her reputation. No one wanted to bond with the perfect warrior. They wanted someone softer, easier, less intimidating. "On my world, I am too much," Kira said one evening. "Here talking to you, I feel like I am enough." Taeyang understood exactly what she meant. One night, the station went into emergency lockdown. A solar flare was coming, bigger than usual, and everyone had to get to shielded areas immediately. Taeyang was in the maintenance tunnels when the alarm sounded. The nearest shelter was back in the diplomatic section. He ran, his heart pounding, following the emergency lights. He made it to the shelter just as the doors were closing. Inside, the room was crowded with humans and Velthura pressed together. The lights went dim to conserve power. They would be stuck here for hours until the flare passed. Taeyang found himself pushed into a corner. Then Kira was there, sliding into the space next to him. In the dim light, her markings glowed softly, providing a gentle blue illumination. "Are you afraid?" she asked quietly. "A little," Taeyang admitted. "You? No. I am with you." The shelter was too crowded for privacy, but somehow in that corner, with the lights down and everyone focused on their own fears, it felt like they were alone. Kira's hand found his in the darkness. They sat close together, shoulders touching, and they talked in whispers about everything and nothing. Kira told him about the Velthara concept of home. For her people, home was not a place. It was a person. When you bonded with someone, they became your home. Wherever they were, that was where you belonged. Taeyang told her about the human concept of love, how it was wild and unpredictable and often made no sense, how humans fell in love with the wrong people at the wrong times, how love could hurt but was still worth it. "Do humans believe in fate?" Kira asked. "Some do. Some do not." "I did not," Kira said. "But now I am not sure. What are the chances that you would be the engineer assigned to our quarters? What are the chances that I would activate my meditation display at the exact moment you were there? It feels like something wanted us to meet." "Maybe something did," Taeyang said. Hours later, when the all-clear sounded and the doors opened, they stepped back into the light. Kira's commander was waiting for her, stern and imposing. Taeyang's supervisor was there too, looking worried. They had to separate, had to return to their respective roles. But as Kira walked away, she glanced back at him one more time. Her markings flashed bright gold just for a second. Taeyang's sister, who had been in a different shelter, came to find him. She saw the look on his face. "Oh, Taeyang," she said softly, "you are in love with her." He could not deny it anymore. Yes, I am. Does she feel the same way? Taeyang thought about Kira's hand in his, about her markings glowing gold, about the way she said his name like it was something precious. I think so. Taeyang looked into her alien eyes, at her glowing markings, at her face that was so strange and so beauty. The observation deck had transformed from a peaceful farewell ceremony into something that looked like a battlefield. Not a violent one, but a battlefield nonetheless. Diplomats argued in clusters. Security personnel spoke urgently into their communication devices. The Velthara delegates stood in a tight group, their markings flashing different colors as they debated among themselves. Taeyang and Kira stood at the center of it all, still holding hands while the storm raged around them. Ambassador Suhyun, the lead human diplomat, pushed through the crowd. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She looked at Taeyang, then at Kira, then at their joined hands. Her expression was unreadable. Explain, she said simply. Before Taeyang could speak, the Velthara commander stepped forward. His name was Daehyun, though he insisted on being called commander. He was even larger than Kira, built like a soldier with scars that showed through his markings. Right now those markings were burning red with anger. This human has violated every protocol, Commander Daehyun said. He has manipulated one of my warriors into a bonding declaration. This entire situation is unacceptable. I did not manipulate anyone, Taeyang said, finding courage he did not know he had. I spoke words I did not even think anyone could hear. If anyone is at fault here, it is me, but I meant what I said. You do not understand what you have done, the commander snapped. A bonding declaration among our people is sacred. It cannot be undone. You have trapped Kira in an impossible situation. Kira's markings flashed bright orange. The color Taeyang had learned meant anger or defiance. I am not trapped, Commander. I chose this. I accepted freely. You accepted a bonding proposal from a human, the commander said, as if the words tasted bad. A species we barely know. A species that lives for a fraction of our lifespan. A species that does not understand our ways. Ambassador Suhyun held up her hand. Commander, I understand your concerns. But this is also a human matter now. Taeyang is one of our people, and we need to understand the full implications before we take any action. She looked at Kira. What exactly does this bonding declaration mean? Kira stood straighter, her voice clear and formal. In Velthara culture, when one person expresses a desire to bond and another person accepts in front of witnesses, it creates a sacred commitment. We are now promised to each other. To break this promise would bring dishonor to both of us and to our families. It would mark us as oath breakers for the rest of our lives. But surely there are exceptions, the ambassador said. For misunderstandings, for situations like this. There are no exceptions, Kira said firmly. The law is absolute. The only way to move forward is through the trial of understanding. Tell us about this trial, Suhyun said. Commander Daehyun looked like he wanted to refuse, but another Velthara stepped forward. This one was older, with markings that were faded silver with age. He spoke with a voice that commanded respect. I am Elder Kreth, he said. I came on this mission to observe human culture and to guide our young warriors in matters of tradition. The trial of understanding is ancient, created in a time when Velthara from different clans wished to bond, but were separated by distance and cultural differences. The trial tests whether two people can truly understand each other, can truly live together despite their differences. What does the trial involve? Taeyang asked. Elder Kreth studied him with eyes that seemed to see right through to his soul. 3 challenges. The first tests physical compatibility. Can you survive in each other's worlds? The second tests cultural understanding. Can you navigate each other's customs and laws? The third tests spiritual connection. Can you find home in each other when everything else is stripped away? And if we pass? Kira asked. Then the bonding is recognized by all Velthara as legitimate and blessed, Elder Kreth said. You would be the first human Velthara bonding in history. You would change everything. And if we fail? Taeyang asked quietly. The elder's expression was sad. Then the bonding is dissolved. You would both be marked as having failed the sacred trial. Kira would never be allowed to attempt bonding again. She would live alone for the rest of her life. The weight of those words settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Taeyang felt his stomach drop. He looked at Kira, saw the determination in her face but also the fear underneath. This is madness, Commander Daehyun said. Kira, you are one of our finest warriors. You have a future, a purpose. You cannot throw it all away for this human. My purpose means nothing if I am alone, Kira said. I have spent my entire life being a perfect warrior. I have fought and bled and won honor for our people. But none of it has made me happy. None of it has made me feel whole. She turned to look at Taeyang and her markings softened to warm gold. He makes me feel whole. Ambassador Suyun was watching this exchange carefully. She turned to Taeyang. And you? Are you prepared to risk everything for this? You barely know her. You come from different worlds. The challenges you will face go far beyond this trial. Taeyang thought about his life before Kira, the empty days, the lonely nights, the feeling that he was just going through the motions, existing but not really living. Then he thought about the past few weeks, the conversations that stretched for hours, the way Kira listened when he spoke, really listened like his words mattered, the feeling of her hand in his during the solar flare, warm and solid and real. I know it seems fast, Taeyang said. I know it seems crazy. But when you have been cold for a long time, you recognize warmth immediately. You do not need weeks or months to know. You just know. He met the ambassador's eyes. I am prepared to risk everything. Soo-hyun nodded slowly. Then I suppose we need to discuss the practical matters. Taeyang will need time off from his duties. He will need resources and support, and we will need to inform Earth's government about this situation. The Velthara government must also be informed. Elder Kreth said, This is unprecedented. There will be political consequences. Let there be consequences, Kira said. Let the politicians argue and debate. Taeyang and I will focus on the trial. Commander Daehyun stepped closer to Kira. When he spoke, his voice was quieter, almost pleading. Kira, I have known you since you were a child. I trained you myself. I have always been proud of you. But this is foolish. Humans are not like us. Their lives are so short. Even if you succeed, even if you bond with him, you will lose him in what feels like the blink of an eye to us. You will spend the rest of your long life alone, unable to bond again. Is that really what you want? Kira's markings flickered through several colors before settling on a deep, steady blue. I would rather have a short time with someone who sees me, really sees me, than spend centuries alone with people who only see what I can do for them. And if I only get a few decades with Taeyang, then I will make every moment count. The commander looked like he wanted to argue more, but Elder Kreth placed a hand on his shoulder. She has made her choice. Honor demands we respect it. Minho appeared at Taeyang's side, slightly out of breath. I just heard what happened. The entire station is talking about it. Are you okay? I think so, Taeyang said. Minho, this is Kira. Minho looked up at the tall alien warrior, his eyes wide. Then he smiled and bowed slightly. It is an honor to meet you. Taeyang has told me a lot about you. He has mentioned you as well, Kira said. You are a good friend to him. I try to be. Minho turned to Taeyang. So a trial? Challenges? This sounds serious. It is serious, Taeyang said. But we are going to do it. Hyejin pushed through the crowd next, her tablet in hand. Okay. I have been reading everything I can find about Velthara bonding trials. There is not much information available, but what I found is concerning. These trials were designed to be difficult. Most couples fail. That is encouraging, Taeyang said dryly. But, Hyejin continued, the few who succeed become legendary. They are celebrated in Velthara history. Their names are remembered for generations. She looked at her brother seriously. You would be making history. Both of you. I do not care about history, Taeyang said. I just want to be with her. I know. But everyone else cares about history. This is going to be bigger than just the two of you. People will be watching, judging, taking sides. Hyejin looked at Kira. Are you both ready for that? Kira nodded. We have no choice. The declaration has been made. We move forward or we lose everything. Ambassador Soo-hyun had been talking quietly with Elder Kreth and Commander Daehyun. Now she turned back to Taeyang and Kira. We have agreed on terms. The trial will begin in 3 days. That gives both of you time to prepare. Taeyang, you will be given access to information about Velthara culture and traditions. Kira, you should spend time learning more about human customs. The trial will be observed by representatives from both our peoples. It will be recorded and documented. What is the first challenge? Taeyang asked. Elder Kreth stepped forward. The first challenge is physical endurance. Taeyang must complete a warrior's training course designed for Velthara. He must prove that his body, though different and weaker, can adapt and overcome. If he fails, the trial ends immediately. Taeyang felt his confidence waver. He was just an engineer. He was not a warrior or an athlete. The Velthara were larger. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Taeyang spent every waking moment preparing for the trial. Heejin brought him files on Velthara culture, their laws, their traditions. Minho helped him train physically, pushing him through exercises that left him sore and exhausted. The station doctor checked him over, making sure he was healthy enough for what was coming. But the most important preparation happened in the quiet moments with Kira. They met whenever they could, often late at night when the station was quiet. They talked about everything. She taught him Velthara breathing techniques to control fear. He taught her human strategies for problem solving. They learned each other, prepared together, built their strength as a team. The morning of the trial arrived too soon. Taeyang stood in the station's main gymnasium, which had been transformed into something that looked like an obstacle course from a nightmare. There were climbing walls that stretched 3 stories high, balance beams suspended over deep pits, barriers to jump over or crawl under, weights to lift. Everything was scaled for beings much larger and stronger than humans. A crowd had gathered to watch. Humans and Velthara filled the observation areas above the gym floor. Taeyang saw Heejin and Minho in the front row, their faces tight with worry. He saw Ambassador Suhyun, her expression carefully neutral. Commander Daehyun stood with his arms crossed, his markings a skeptical orange. Elder Kreth waited at the starting line. His ancient eyes studied Taeyang carefully. "This is the first challenge," he said, his voice carrying to everyone watching. Physical endurance. Taeyang must complete the warrior's course within the time limit. The course was designed for Velthara warriors in their prime. No human has ever attempted it. Failure means the trial ends and the bonding is dissolved. "What is the time limit?" Taeyang asked. His mouth was dry. 1 hour, Elder Kreth said. Taeyang looked at the course again. An hour seemed impossible. But then Kira was there standing next to him. She was not allowed to help him during the challenge, but she could be present at the start. "Remember what I told you," she said quietly. "You do not have to do it the way a Velthara would do it. You just have to finish. Use your mind. Use your skills. Use everything that makes you human." "What if I fail?" Taeyang asked. Kira's markings glowed warm gold. "Then we fight the rules. We find another way. But you will not fail. I believe in you." She stepped back. Elder Kreth raised his hand. "Begin!" Taeyang ran forward. The first obstacle was a climbing wall with handholds spaced far apart, designed for beings with longer reach. A Velthara could climb it in seconds. Taeyang tried the direct approach, jumping for the first handhold. His fingers caught it, but his arms shook with the effort of pulling himself up. By the time he reached for the second hold, his shoulders were burning. This was not going to work. Taeyang dropped back down, thinking. He was an engineer. He solved problems. The handholds were spaced for Velthara, but there were other features on the wall. Support beams, edge pieces, small imperfections in the surface. What if he did not follow the intended path? He started climbing again, but this time he used everything he could find. The edge of a support beam gave him a foothold. A gap between panels let him wedge his fingers in for grip. It was slower, more careful, but it worked. He reached the top of the wall and dropped down the other side. The crowd made a noise, something between surprise and approval. The next obstacle was a series of balance beams, each one narrower than the last. Taeyang had always been decent at balance. He focused, breathing the way Kira taught him, and made his way across. His smaller size actually helped here. He was lighter, more agile. Then came the weights, heavy bars that needed to be lifted and carried across a marked distance. Taeyang grabbed the first one and immediately knew this was the hardest challenge yet. The weight was enormous, designed for Velthara strength. His back screamed as he tried to lift it. He could not do it. Not the way they intended. Taeyang looked around. The rules said he had to move the weight across the distance. They did not say how. He found a rolling cart used for equipment, wheeled it over, and used a lever principle to get the weight onto the cart. Then he pushed the cart across the marked distance. It was not graceful. It was not what a warrior would do. But it worked. Commander Daehyun's markings flashed irritated orange. He is cheating. That is not how the challenge is meant to be completed. But Elder Kreth held up a hand. The rules state only that he must move the weight from one point to another. He has done so. His method is unconventional but not forbidden. The challenge is continued. Taeyang crawled under barriers, jumped over obstacles, and ran until his lungs burned. Every time he faced something impossible, he stopped and thought. What would an engineer do? How could he solve this problem with the tools available? He was not faster than a Velthara. He was not stronger. But he was adaptable. He was clever. He used every bit of knowledge he had gained from years of fixing and building and solving problems. Time became strange. He lost track of how long he had been going. His body hurt everywhere. His hands were bleeding from rough surfaces. His legs shook with exhaustion. But he kept moving forward. The final obstacle appeared before him. A rope climb stretching up toward the ceiling, 40 feet at least. His arms were already dead tired from everything before. He looked up at that rope and wanted to quit. Then he heard Kira's voice from the crowd. She was not supposed to speak during the challenge, and immediately Elder Kreth moved to stop her. But she had already said the words, "You are almost home." Home, that word. The Velthara concept that home was a person, not a place. Kira was his home. He just had to reach her. Taeyang grabbed the rope. His hand slipped. He grabbed again, started climbing. Every pull was agony. Every inch gained felt like a mile. His vision started to blur at the edges. His muscles screamed for him to stop, but he did not stop. He climbed and climbed, focusing only on the next handhold, the next foot placement. Nothing else existed except the rope and the burning need to finish. His hand hit the bell at the top. The sound echoed through the gymnasium. Taeyang hung there for a moment, barely conscious, then managed to slide down the rope in a controlled fall. He collapsed on the ground. Could not move. Could not think. Elder Kreth's voice reached him as if from far away. Time, 58 minutes and 37 seconds. He has passed the first challenge. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered. Some argued. Taeyang did not care. He had done it. He had actually done it. Then Kira was there, kneeling beside him. She was allowed to approach now that the challenge was complete. Her hands were gentle as she helped him sit up. Her markings were brilliant gold, blazing with pride and joy. "I told you," she said. "I told you that you could do it." "Barely," Taeyang gasped. "I barely made it, but you made it. That is all that matters." The station doctor rushed over to check Taeyang. Nothing was broken, but he was covered in bruises and cuts. The doctor wanted to take him to the medical bay, but Taeyang refused. "When is the second challenge?" he asked Elder Kreth. "Tomorrow," the elder said. "You have earned a day of rest." "What is the second challenge?" "Cultural wisdom. You must solve a dispute using Velthara law and tradition. It is a test of understanding, not strength." Taeyang nodded. His body might be destroyed, but his mind still worked. He could do this. The crowd slowly dispersed. Minho helped Taeyang to his quarters, supporting most of his weight. "That was the most impressive thing I have ever seen," Minho said. "You used every dirty engineering trick in the book." "Whatever works," Taeyang said. "The Velthara did not seem happy about your methods." "I do not care." I passed. Back in his quarters, Taeyang collapsed on his bed. Every part of his body hurt. But through the pain, he felt something else. Pride. He had faced an impossible challenge and found a way. He had proven that humans could adapt, could overcome, could succeed even when the odds were stacked against them. Kira came to see him that evening. She brought food and medical supplies. She sat with him while he ate, her markings a soft, contented blue. "The commanders are arguing about your performance," she said. "Some think you cheated. Some think the challenge was unfair for a human. But Elder Kreth ruled in your favor. He said that adaptability is its own form of strength." "What do you think?" Taeyang asked. "I think you were magnificent. You used your human ingenuity to overcome physical limitations. That is exactly what the trial is meant to test. Can two different beings find ways to understand and complement each other? You proved that they can." The second challenge came the next day. Taeyang was still sore, but his mind was sharp. He was brought to a formal chamber where Elder Kreth and several other Velthara waited. They presented him with a scenario. Two Velthara warriors both claim the same honor in battle, Elder Kreth explained. Both say they struck the killing blow against an enemy. Both demand recognition. Their families are on the verge of blood feud. You must resolve this dispute using Velthara law and honor code. You may ask questions, but you must provide a solution that satisfies tradition. Taeyang listened to the details. He asked about Velthara honor customs, about how disputes were traditionally handled. He thought about what Kira had taught him, about what he had read. The Velthara valued honor above all else, but they also valued unity, strength through connection. Finally, he spoke. In the celebration after the trial was brief. Elder Kreth formally recognized the bonding. Kira's markings glowed with joy. Taeyang felt like he was floating. They had passed every challenge. They had proven that their bond was real and true. Now they could finally be together, but not everyone was happy. The news spread across the station within hours. A human and a Velthara were going to bond. The first cross-species bonding in history. Some people celebrated it as a sign of progress and unity. Others saw it as a threat to everything they believed in. 3 days after the trial ended, Taeyang noticed strange things happening. His work assignments kept getting changed at the last minute. Equipment he needed would go missing. Small things easy to dismiss as coincidence, but they kept happening. Minho noticed it too. "Someone is messing with you," he said one evening. "Someone with access to the work order systems." "Why would anyone care enough to do that?" Taeyang asked. "Because you are famous now. Or infamous, depending on who you ask. There are people who think what you and Kira are doing is dangerous. Some humans think you are betraying your own species. Some Velthara think Kira is weakening their people by bonding with someone so different. That is ridiculous. Is it?" Minho pulled up his tablet and showed Taeyang the station's message boards. There were hundreds of posts about the bonding. Some were supportive, but many were angry. People said that humans and aliens should not mix. They said it was unnatural. They said it would lead to problems nobody could predict. "These are just words," Taeyang said. "People will talk, but eventually they will move on to something else." "I hope you are right," Minho said. But he looked worried. On the Velthara ship, Kira was facing similar problems. Commander Daehyun had accepted the trial results because honor demanded it, but that did not mean he liked them. Conservative Velthara on the ship were pressuring Kira to reconsider. They argued that bonding with a human would weaken her, would make her less effective as a warrior. Some even suggested that she should return to their homeworld and let the bonding fade away through distance. Kira refused all of them. "I have passed the trial," she told them. "My bonding is legitimate. I will not break my oath," but the pressure continued, and then things started to get worse. A human extremist group began organizing on the station. They called themselves Humanity First, and they believed that humans should remain pure, should not mix with alien species. Their leader was a former military officer named Jin Young, who had been discharged for aggressive behavior. He was charismatic and angry, and he found plenty of people who agreed with him. At the same time, a Velthara conservative faction was forming on their ship. They believed that Velthara traditions were being corrupted by contact with humans. They wanted to end the diplomatic mission and return home, keeping their culture isolated and pure. Both groups began meeting secretly, planning actions that would force an end to the human-Velthara alliance. And at the center of their plans was one goal: stop the bonding between Taeyang and Kira. Hyejin discovered the conspiracy by accident. She was working late in the linguistics department when she noticed unusual communication patterns, messages being sent on hidden channels, meetings scheduled in areas of the station that were supposed to be empty. She started investigating, tracking the communications, and what she found terrified her. She ran to find Taeyang and Kira. They were together in the shared quarters that had been assigned to them, preparing for their formal bonding ceremony, which was scheduled for the next week. "We have a problem," Hyejin said, bursting through the door. "A big problem." She showed them what she had found. Both human extremists and Velthara conservatives were planning to sabotage the station's systems during the bonding ceremony. They would make it look like the other species was responsible. The humans would blame the Velthara. The Velthara would blame the humans. The alliance would collapse. War would become possible. "They are using your bonding as an excuse," Hyejin explained. "They will say that the sabotage happened because of the unnatural union between species. They will turn you into symbols of everything that is wrong with the alliance." Kira's markings flashed angry red. "We must tell the commanders. Alert security. Stop this before it starts." "It is not that simple," Hyejin said. "I do not have solid proof yet. Just communication patterns and suspicions. If we accuse people without evidence, we could start the very conflict we are trying to prevent." "Then we get evidence," Taeyang said. "We investigate. We find out exactly what they are planning and we stop them. How? Hyejin asked. We are not security personnel or investigators. Kira stood up, her full height making her imposing even in the small quarters. No, but I am a warrior trained in strategy and tactics. And Taiyang is an engineer who knows every system on this station. Together we can figure this out. They worked through the night. Hyejin tracked communications. Taeyang analyzed the station's systems, looking for vulnerabilities that saboteurs might exploit. Kira used her tactical training to predict what methods the conspirators might use. By morning, they had a picture of the plan. The extremists were going to overload the station's power grid during the ceremony. It would cause a massive failure, potentially killing people. The human group would plant evidence making it look like the Velthara did it. The Velthara group would do the same in reverse. Chaos would follow. The alliance would die. We need to tell someone, Hyejin insisted. Who? Taiyang asked. We still do not have hard proof. And we do not know who else might be involved. If we tell the wrong person, they could warn the conspirators. There is another option, Kira said quietly. We stop them ourselves. How? We let them think their plan is working. We let them make their move. But we are there, waiting, ready to stop them and expose them at the same time. It was risky. If they failed, people could die. The alliance could collapse. Everything they had worked for would be destroyed. But if they succeeded, they would not only stop the extremists but prove that humans and Velthara could work together to solve problems. They decided to try. The next few days were tense. Taiyang continued his regular work, but he also quietly modified the station's power systems. He added backup safeguards that only he knew about. He created fail-safes that would prevent a catastrophic overload. If the extremists tried to sabotage the grid, he would be able to counter it. Kira worked with loyal Velthara warriors she trusted absolutely. She positioned them around the station in key locations. If violence broke out, they would be ready to respond and protect civilians. Hyejin continued monitoring communications, tracking the conspirators' movements, feeding information to Taiyang and Kira. The night before the bonding ceremony, the extremists made their move. Hyejin detected unusual activity in multiple locations. Taiyang received alerts that someone was accessing restricted system controls. Kira's warriors reported seeing suspicious groups gathering. It was happening. Taiyang and Kira moved quickly. They split up, each taking different parts of the station. Taiyang headed to the power control center. Kira went to the area where the ceremony would be held. In the power center, Taiyang found Jin Young and two other humans working at the control panels. They were inputting commands that would overload the grid. Taiyang watched from the shadows, waiting for the right moment. Jin Young activated the overload sequence. The systems began to spike. Alarms should have started blaring, but they had been disabled. The sabotage was proceeding exactly as planned. Then Taiyang stepped forward and activated his fail-safes. The overload reversed instantly. The system stabilized, backup power kicked in. Jin Young spun around, his face going pale when he saw Taiyang. What did you do? I stopped you, Taiyang said simply. I knew someone would try something like this. I have been preparing for weeks. Every system you tried to sabotage has multiple backups that you did not know about. Your plan failed. Security arrived moments later. Hyejin had alerted them the moment the sabotage attempt began, and now they had solid evidence. Jin Young and his accomplices were arrested. At the same time, in the ceremony hall, Kira faced the Velthara conspirators. They had planted explosive devices, planning to blame the destruction on human incompetence. But Kira's warriors had been watching. They moved in perfect coordination, disarming the devices and capturing the conspirators. Commander Daehyun arrived to find his own people being held by Kira's loyal warriors. His markings flashed through confusion, anger, and finally understanding as Kira explained what had been planned. The commander looked at the captured conspirators with disgust. You have dishonored yourselves and all Velthara. You will face judgment for this. They wanted to stop the bonding, Kira said. They wanted to destroy the alliance. But they failed. Not because of human strength or Velthara strength. They failed because we worked together. Later that night, after all the arrests had been made and all the statements had been given, Taiyang and Kira finally had a moment alone. They sat in their quarters, exhausted but relieved. We could have died today, Taiyang said quietly. But we did not. We survived because we trusted each other. We survived because we worked together. Kira's markings were a peaceful blue. The extremists wanted to prove that our bonding was dangerous. Instead, we proved that it makes us stronger. Do you think this is over? Taeyang asked. The morning of the bonding ceremony arrived with gentle light filtering through the station windows. Taeyang woke early, his stomach tight with nerves and excitement. Today was the day. After everything they had faced, all the trials and challenges and opposition, today he and Kira would be formally bonded. Minho arrived to help him prepare. Traditional human bonding ceremonies required formal clothing, so Taeyang wore a simple but elegant suit that Hyejin had helped him choose. It was black with subtle silver threading that caught the light when he moved. How do you feel? Minho asked as he helped adjust Taeyang's collar. Like I'm about to jump off a cliff, Taeyang admitted. But in a good way. That is an interesting description of getting married. Bonded. The Velthara call it bonding. Same thing, different word. Minho smiled. You know, when you first came to this station 3 years ago, you were so closed off. So sad. I never thought I would see you like this. Happy. Alive. Kira changed everything. Taeyang said quietly. No. You changed everything. You had the courage to feel something. To say something. To risk something. Kira just gave you a reason. Minho clasped his shoulder. I am proud of you, friend. Hyejin came to collect Taeyang a short time later. She wore a traditional Korean dress updated with modern fabrics, honoring their Earth heritage while acknowledging their space-born life. Her eyes were bright with tears she was trying to hide. My little brother, she said. Getting bonded to an alien warrior. Our parents would have been so confused and so happy. I wish they could be here, Taeyang said. They are here. In you, in your courage and your kindness and your stubborn refusal to give up on what matters. She hugged him tightly. Now come on, you have a ceremony to get to. The ceremony was being held in the station's largest observation deck. The room had been transformed into something beautiful and strange, a blend of human and Velthara traditions. Earth flowers mixed with Velthara light crystals. Human candles burned alongside Velthara glowing orbs. It was neither fully human nor fully Velthara, but something new, something that belonged to both species and to neither. Hundreds of people filled the observation deck. Humans and Velthara stood side by side, no longer separated by species but united in witnessing this historic moment. Ambassador Suhyun was there, smiling for perhaps the first time since Taeyang had met her. Elder Kreth stood near the front, his ancient face peaceful. Even Commander Daehyun attended, his markings a respectful purple, but Taeyang saw none of them. Because Kira was there and she was breathtaking, she wore ceremonial armor that had been specially made for this day. It was lighter than her warrior armor, more elegant, decorated with symbols that represented both Velthara honor and human love. Her dark hair was braided in an intricate pattern that Taeyang did not recognize but found beautiful. Her markings glowed a soft gold that seemed to illuminate her from within. She saw him and smiled, and in that moment everything else disappeared. They walked toward each other, meeting in the center of the room beneath an arch made of intertwined human ivy and Velthara light vines. Elder Kreth stepped forward to officiate, as was proper for a Velthara bonding, but Ambassador Suhyun stood with him, representing humanity. We gathered today to witness something that has never happened before, Elder Kreth began, his voice carrying to every corner of the room, a bonding between two beings from different worlds, different species, different cultures. Some said this was impossible. Others said it was wrong, but Taeyang and Kira proved them all mistaken, Ambassador Suhyun continued. In human tradition, we say that love conquers all. Today we see the truth of those words. Love has conquered distance. It has conquered difference. It has conquered fear and hatred and all the barriers that tried to keep two souls apart. The ceremony proceeded with a blend of both traditions. Taeyang spoke the Velthara bonding oath, promising to be Kira's home, her strength, her constant companion. His pronunciation was imperfect, but his meaning was clear. Kira spoke human marriage vows in Korean, promising to love and cherish and stand by Taeyang through all of life's challenges. Then came the Velthara bonding ritual. Kira placed her hand over Taeyang's heart. Her markings began to glow brighter, pulsing with light. Taeyang felt warmth spread through his chest, felt something connect between them that went beyond words or physical touch. In Velthara tradition, Elder Kreth explained for the human observers. The bonding creates a permanent connection. They will always be able to sense each other's emotions, their presence even across great distances. They become two parts of one whole. The human part of the ceremony was simpler but no less meaningful. They exchanged rings, simple bands made of metals from both Earth and the Velthara homeworld, fused together. Taeyang slipped the ring onto Kira's finger. Her hands were larger than human hands, so the ring had been specially made, but it fit perfectly. When Kira put the ring on Taeyang's finger, her hands trembled slightly. Her markings flickered between gold and blue, joy and tenderness mixing together. "By the laws of both our peoples," Elder Kreth said, "I declare you bonded. You are now one family, one unit, one home for each other. You may kiss," Ambassador Suyun added with a small smile. The kiss was gentle and sweet, and when they separated, Kira's markings blazed so bright that several humans had to shield their eyes. The room erupted in applause and cheers from both species. The celebration afterward was unlike anything the station had ever seen. Music played. Human songs mixed with Velthara harmonies, creating something entirely new. Food was shared. Humans trying Velthara dishes and making faces at the strange textures. Velthara sampling Earth cuisine and discovering flavors their people had never experienced. Taeyang and Kira moved through the crowd together, thanking people for coming, accepting congratulations, marveling at how many people had come to support them. Even people who had been skeptical at first were smiling now, caught up in the joy of the moment. Commander Daehyun approached them, looking uncomfortable but determined. "I have something to say," he announced loudly enough for nearby people to hear. "I oppose this bonding. I thought it was a mistake. But I was wrong, and I am not too proud to admit it. Taeyang, you have proven yourself worthy of Kira a dozen times over. Kira, you have shown that following your heart does not mean abandoning your duty. You have both taught this old warrior that strength comes in forms I never expected." He placed his fist over his heart in a Velthara salute. "I'm honored to know you both." The crowd applauded again. Taeyang felt tears in his eyes. Kira's markings glowed warm and bright. As the celebration continued, Hyejin pulled Taeyang aside for a moment. "There is something you should know," she said. "The news about your bonding has spread beyond this station. Earth's government is talking about it. The Velthara homeworld is talking about it. You have become symbols whether you wanted to or not." "I just wanted to be with Kira," Taeyang said. "I know. But you have become something more. You have shown both our peoples that we can come together, that we can love and understand each other despite our differences." Hyejin smiled. "There is talk of creating an official cultural exchange program, human Velthara cooperation in science, art, philosophy. Some Velthara are even talking about relaxing their bonding laws, allowing more freedom to choose partners outside traditional restrictions." "Because of us?" "Because you were brave enough to go first. You showed everyone else that it was possible." The celebration lasted long into the station's night cycle. When it finally ended, Taeyang and Kira returned to their quarters, their home. It had been modified to accommodate both species, with furniture sized for Velthara and environmental controls adjusted for human comfort. It was a physical representation of their bonding, two different worlds coming together to create something new. They stood at the window, looking out at the stars. Kira's arms wrapped around Taeyang from behind. Her warmth enveloped him, and through the bonding connection he could feel her emotions. Peace, joy, love, home. "Do you remember that night in the observation deck?" Taeyang asked. "When I whispered that I wished I could marry you." "I remember every moment we have shared," Kira said. "But yes, I remember that night especially. I remember thinking that I had waited my entire life to hear those words, even if you did not mean for me to hear them. I am glad you did. I am glad you said yes." "I will always say yes to you," Kira said softly. In every language, in every moment for the rest of our lives. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. The Velthara ship was still docked at the station. Some of the delegation would be leaving soon, returning to their homeworld with news of the successful mission and the historic bonding. But others would stay, building on the relationships that had been formed. Kira had decided to remain on the station with Taeyang, at least for now. Her new role was as an official liaison between species, helping humans and Velthara understand each other. It was important work, and she was perfect for it. Taeyang would continue his engineering work, but he had also been asked to help design new spaces on the station that could accommodate both species. places where humans and Velthara could live and work together comfortably.